Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Inside Out Smile. I'm your host, Dr. Amber Q, and what is happening in the world? My gosh. So I previously mentioned that things, were changing in the world, and my gosh, we know that with the continuing genocide and the occupiers of Palestine just absolutely flouting international law, that was going to have a detrimental effect on the world. And it's already started. So it seems that yesterday in Ecuador, the police stormed the Mexican embassy, which is basically a no-no. You don't go into embassies. And so where has this come from? I think basically it's come from the fact that, and I'm not a politician, I am not a journalist, but the things that I've read show that, yes, of course, that this is shocking. And I think, obviously Mexico has cut ties, I think, with Ecuador. And essentially, there is a lot, if you are looking at press and reading about things, there is a lot about a new world order emerging. And of course, any transition is never going to be easy. But what's going to happen during that time? I mean, I really don't know. But it's very worrying that there is a breakdown, or it looks as if there is. Well, no, there is a breakdown in international law because the occupiers of Palestine are behaving just, with total anarchy. And now, obviously, the Ecuadorian authorities, what they've done as well in terms of the Mexican embassy, that is not good news. So what does this mean for all of us? I mean, you're probably thinking, why is she talking about this, and what has this got to do with us? Well, I think from my viewpoint, the reason I'm mentioning it is that as the world becomes more undone, in essence, I think we have to actually get our act together. Now, there's so many amazing people in the world, and this is our future, essentially. If you've got children, it's your children's future, your grandchildren's future, but essentially it is the world that we live in, right? So what can we do to get ourselves together? What do I mean by that? I essentially mean finding ourselves emotionally, mentally, physically, and spiritually. And in fact, of course, these factors are all intertwined. And you could argue, in fact, that everything comes from your spiritual health, because once you have spiritual health, I think everything else follows. But yeah, those are my thoughts, really. And it's interesting because the thing is, as governments, politicians becoming more bankrupt, we can't afford to be bankrupt spiritually, physically, emotionally. And it may seem as if that's okay to do that because obviously some people operate on that basis. But unfortunately, or should I say, fortunately, what comes around goes around. So you could be morally, spiritually, physically bankrupt, right? By eating rubbish, being a horrible person. But these things are eventually going to catch up with you. And it's really interesting because there's been, there's so many articles, one about ghosts, another one about our consciousness not stopping, after we pass away. So when you die, where does that consciousness come from? Because they're saying it doesn't come from the brain. So many questions. And, Islam answers all of these questions. Islam has more about what happens after your death than I think any other religion, as far as I know. And as we're all noticing that time is moving faster, I mean, I'm hearing so many people say this, people in their 20s and their teens as well. And I think it's really, really interesting because obviously there are people that have that ethos that, yes, life is very short, time is moving faster, so I'd better just have fun while I can. And then there are other people who are actually building for the akhirah or the afterlife. I'm one of those, God willing. And so the point is that, and of course you can have fun without sort of, harming anyone. But if you look at, and I'm not advocating obviously anyone harming anyone, but the point is, even so, if you're just having kind of innocent fun, is there any such thing as innocent fun? I mean, yes, there is if you're knitting something or, but the point is, if you look at your life, none of us know when it's time for us to leave this earth. And, an atheist or someone who's not God conscious may say, well, what if there's no afterlife? What if there is no hereafter? But because that hereafter is for eternity, it's a big risk to take. I mean, I have no doubt whatsoever. And please let me repeat that. The one thing that I've sensed my entire life is that there is an afterlife, that there is an unseen world. I don't know why people find it very easy to, to think about sort of, the occult or the unseen world in different ways. In terms of technology, but some people are so hesitant to understand the concept of God and a creator and an afterlife, which I find fascinating. And Islam is built upon reasoning and common sense, quite frankly. And it's just so wonderful. I mean, I feel so blessed. And there's so many people that are becoming Muslim because they are also looking into it and seeing the sense in it, because everything that Islam prescribes is for the good of humanity. And it also makes sense because we can now see that governments are flawed, laws are flawed, humans are flawed, greed is, there's so much injustice which is due to greed, right? And if there was no afterlife, it just wouldn't make sense. It just would not make sense. So why am I saying all of this? I don't know. The point is that as things are changing, I think we can't control, and I've always said this, you cannot control how anyone else behaves. The only thing you can control is your own behavior, your own responses. And look, I'm not saying I'm perfect, because I'm definitely not perfect, and I have so much to improve upon myself. But the basic concepts of life, and just, as we feed things in the seen world, like our physical body, we have to feed and nourish our soul, which is from the unseen world. And that's why we have spiritual health that is a part of our whole sort of holistic health. And I think people are cottoning on to that. But there's so much rubbish out there. Honestly. So I think, again, everyone should do their due diligence. Everyone needs to sort of figure out for themselves what path they are on, because none of us know when our time finishes on earth. So you can't really say, I'm going to wait until I'm older. But what I can tell you is that the Palestinian people are very blessed in their faith, and you can see that, and so many people have seen that, which is why people have embraced Islam. And I could tell you stories, which I'm sure I have done in earlier episodes, about my experiences with creatures from the unseen world. Although, I don't know. Yeah, I guess jinns are from the unseen world. So, there are things out there that we don't understand. And I think we get an inkling of this anyway throughout our lives. Just the main factor that, even if you think about just attraction, or if you're in a car and you stare at someone in the street, they will sense that they are, that you are looking at them. And even just the way we can communicate with animals, the whole non-verbal thing. And then, of course, other creatures, which in Islam we will call, we do call them jinns, who are made of fire, because obviously man is made out of clay. So, I just think that the fact that people are just so dissatisfied with life as well, and materialism, and the fact that they're just yearning for something and they're not sure what that something is, believe me, that is your spiritual being that is being starved as well, and that's asking for nourishment. So maybe we can speak about this in another episode if you guys would like that. But I feel so passionately about this, and there's so many things that I could say. But the one thing I will finish with is that as the world order is coming undone, the only thing that we have any control over is how we behave. We don't have any control over time. We don't know how much time we have left. So how we behave, and I think really the way we behave as well, whether we look at any sort of addiction or attachment, it really does come down to this whole holistic viewpoint and looking at our spiritual sort of well-being, because that answers so many things. They're things that we need as humans, but honestly, you can cope with those things if you don't have those, as long as you have faith and spiritual, let's call it, enlightenment. And that's why the Gazans and the people of Palestine are so resilient, and that's how you can be resilient as well. And until the next episode, let's all create connection with ourselves and with others, and let's not just change lives, but let's save lives.